Have you ever had an incredible experience with the tarot? One that perhaps left you speechless or perhaps absolutely incredulous at what you were experiencing and seeing? I know I have, and in this video I would like to share that experience with you. Welcome everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Monica, and this video is part of my personal insights playlist here on my YouTube channel, where I talk about my experiences and obviously insights that I have gleaned over the years working with tarot. So the particular event that I am talking about happened quite a while back. I was around 29 years old at the time, and due to a number of reasons I was in a rather difficult place in my own personal life. I think being 29 and looking back now, of course, I know that those experiences collectively can be summed up as a Saturn return. And for me, my Saturn return was equally difficult as it was enriching. And I don't want to sound cliched about it, but it truly was. So I was at a point in my life where I was facing some really painful lessons and experiences, and I felt like I really needed to move away somewhere. I really wanted to leave so much of my life behind and start afresh somewhere. And I remember at that time seeing a very wise psychologist and talking to him, and I think at one point I must have said I really wanted to move to India. And he said to me, you know, you can run away to India, Monica, but you take yourself with you wherever you go. And that was really powerful for me. I knew in an instant what he meant. And I decided to stay. I had already quit my very mainstream and very dissatisfying job at that point, and I was living in the middle of the city, but I wanted to move somewhere away, somewhere closer to nature or the beach. And I came across this little studio while it was still on the outskirts of the city. Like, it wasn't completely isolated. It wasn't like, you know, I had to drive for hours to reach civilization or anything like that. For me, it was certainly probably the most isolated living experience that I have encountered in my life. So I wasn't sure about moving to this particular place because I would be alone, and I would be alone. The little hut, for lack of a better word, was in the middle of what was still a heavily forested area, lots of bush around. This is on Auckland's west coast. And like I said, it wasn't that isolated in the sense that I could, within a minute's drive, be at a little village in town, and, you know, they'd have shops and restaurants and whatnot there. But the house itself, or the little studio, was certainly, you have to walk through a bit of forest to get to it, and there was no one near you. Like, you'd be completely on your own. And naturally I was a bit hesitant about doing this. Like, I knew I couldn't stay where I was, and I knew I had to do some personal work that was really painful. It was excruciatingly painful for me, that particular moment in my life. So I knew I had to move, but I also wasn't too sure if I could stomach living on my own like that. So I was already into tarot at the time, and I decided to draw a card on this to basically, you know, ask for advice and guidance. Like, was that the right place for me to move to? I'm not quite sure if I asked that particular question, but I remember I decided to draw a card to gain some guidance on moving to this place. So I had my trusty universal Rider-Waite Smith deck, and I remember I shuffled it like I normally do, and then I cut. Those of you who have seen me do any live readings, that's my normal preferred way of working with the tarot. I will shuffle for quite some time, and then I will cut into 3 piles and choose the middle pile, and then put the deck back together. So I did that, and I turned over the top card. It was like a 1-card draw. So I turned the card over, and I got the 10 of Swords. Okay, now if anyone's new here, and I'm sorry about the glare, this is the 10 of Swords, and as you can see, it's a rather doom and gloom kind of a card. There's a body on the ground, and it's got 10 swords stabbing its back, and the sky above is black, and like the whole scene is one of misery and pain and suffering. So, you know, and I looked at that, and then I looked at the card underneath the deck, because I always look at that card as a sort of a, I call it my PS card, but I find that the card underneath the deck adds an extra layer of meaning. And the card underneath the tarot deck was the Star. Okay, so can we actually see this? It's not the best at focusing, but anyway, so I looked at these 2 cards, you know, the top card being the 10 of Swords and the bottom card being the Star, and I felt like what this was saying is that moving there would signal, this is what I'd have to deal with, you know. I'd have to really face the fact that there were aspects of my life that were ending or had ended, and very much in a very painful way, and I'd have to really go through that and process that, and also deal with a lot of other issues that precipitated me making the choices that I had made. But also that underneath it all, it would be a time of incredible healing, because that's what the Star card is so much about. Like, yes, you're in the dark when you get this Star card, naturally the stars shine at night, but the Star to me is always a card of tremendous hope and healing. It's one of my favorite cards in the whole tarot deck. So, you know, I got the message, like I got the message, and me being me, of course, I did what I advise new beginners in tarot and students of tarot never to do, and that is to do the same draw again. Basically the same question one more time, rather than sitting with that answer and really chewing on it for a while, regardless of whether you like it or not. So obviously I didn't really like it. I mean, who wants this, right? Who wants to go through that consciously, like on purpose? I think there's a reason why so many people don't choose to face their issues, or don't choose to really delve deep into the underlying subconscious reasons for their choices that they make in life. And that is because it's bloody painful and difficult to really face certain things. But anyway, I went, stuff that, I'll do this reading again. So off I went, and I shuffled, and like I said, if you've watched any of my videos that I do live, you know I can shuffle for quite some time, and in real life I shuffle even longer. Like, I try not to do it so long on a on a YouTube video, because I'm mindful that it's a bit boring for people to just sit there and watch me shuffling. But anyway, I shuffled, I cut the deck into 3 piles, put it back together, and drew the top card. 10 of Swords. And then, you know where this is going, I turned the deck over to look at the bottom card, and the bottom card was once again the Star card. Now, I don't remember much, or actually I don't remember anything from my misspent engineering degree at university. I did do a paper on probability and statistics, because we had to, it was a compulsory part, and I barely scraped through that. Miraculously I passed. I think I got a C or something mediocre like that in it. But really, I don't really need to remember much of that to know that the probability or the chances of me drawing not only the top card, but also having the bottom card being exactly the same are pretty slim. And I remember the energy in the room at the time. Like I just stood still and I could feel this intensity in the room. Like it's one of those moments where I could just feel spirit, or I could feel like a presence basically saying to me, this is it, right? This is it. You not only do you have to accept it, but you've got to trust these cards a bit more. You've got to trust the process a bit more, because essentially when you repeat the same reading, you're not really trusting what the cards are telling you in the first place, I think. That's just my personal insight, I guess. But it was certainly like, it really floored me. It really floored me. And in the end, I did decide to move because I really couldn't stay where I was, even though at the time I was flirting with someone who was absolutely lovely, and she's been a friend since. And it was a great part of town where I was in, and like so many things were great about where I was living, but I just had to go and spend some time facing some difficult realities about life, about me, about my childhood, about my family, about choices that I'd made, about where I wanted to go in life. So many things. So I did move there, and it was indeed a Ten of Swords experience like no other. It was so painful, and I honestly can say I pretty much spent a lot of time howling like a wounded animal. It doesn't sound very appealing, but I did. The great thing about it was that there was so much healing that took place at that time, and a huge part of that was because I was surrounded by nature and trees and birds, and at night I could hear the owl. It was absolutely beautiful. And in those regards, there were many, many unpleasant aspects to it as well. Like, I'm not trying to romanticize it. I know a lot of people dream about moving to a little hut in the middle of nowhere. Well, it's not. It's just not like it sounds sometimes, and there were parts of it that weren't that great. But for me, it was an incredibly transformative period, and ultimately turned out so for the good of it all. And I actually remember the time I started a YouTube channel, and this was in 2009. I mean, if I would have kept that, I sometimes kick myself for not keeping it. I did a few videos and then I decided to move away from it because I just had so much other stuff going on in my life, and I wish I'd have kept it. But anyway, that's an aside. I'm going off on a tangent. So anyway, I wanted to record that and share with you all. And I guess, if anyone has anything similar to share, I would love to hear if people have had a surreal moment with their tarot cards. That would be wonderful to hear about. And as always, thank you all for watching, and thank you for supporting my channel.